probably a little dangerous to be tossing the knife around like this in your kitchen. Don't do this at home. Do you ever have trouble cutting into a juicy and perfectly ripe watermelon? While they can definitely be a bit of a challenge, there's actually 2 quick and easy ways that you can cut them into cubes for recipes or cute little wedges for snacking. Hey there, I'm London Brazil from evolvingtable.com, where you learn how to make nourishing meals to serve the ones you love. And today I'm actually going to be teaching you how to cut a watermelon, as well as how to pick out the best and most ripe fruit at your grocery store. But before we start, I have a confession to make to you. It wasn't until just a few weeks ago that my kitchen knife actually touched this gargantuan fruit. Y'all, like for real, I was so intimidated by even where to start, where to begin, that I normally would just pay that very expensive price tag on the pre-cut watermelon chunks at the grocery store. But no more. From one scared chica to the next, this is actually so easy to cut into. In fact, there's 2 different ways that I'm going to show you, so you can pick and choose which method works the best for you. Let's first start off by taking a look at the anatomy of a watermelon, as well as a few of the different types that you can buy. The exterior, or rind, is made up of a bright and dark green skin with a white portion directly underneath. While it is technically edible, the watermelon rind is a little tart and often discarded. The interior, or the flesh, of the watermelon is full of a sweet and somewhat watery juice. You can find the huge picnic watermelons that are large enough to feed a crowd, or a smaller, personal-sized melon like the one we're cutting into today. Watermelons also come with the option of having seeds or being seedless. When you're picking which watermelon to take home with you from the store, there are a few key features you'll want to look for to ensure the juiciest, most ripe and flavorful melon is selected. The first one of these is their shape. A round and pretty symmetrical watermelon is best, since it means it was watered evenly throughout its growth process. Next is their size. When you go to pick up the watermelon, you want it to almost shock you by how heavy it is. Just kidding. But this one it's actually pretty heavy. This means that inside of the watermelon, there's a ton of that delicious watery juice that gives it all of the flavor you love. Also, their sound. You want your watermelon to have a nice, deep, hollow sound when it's thumped. And probably the most important feature is the spot, sometimes called the belly spot or the ground spot. Initially, you might want to pick that beautiful and unblemished melon, but don't let them fool you. The ones that are the juiciest and most ripe melons actually have this bright yellow and creamy spot on the bottom of the fruit. This spot means they sat on the ground and were allowed to ripen naturally before being picked from the vine. Now that you've selected a good and ripe watermelon, it's time to start cutting it up using one of these 2 different methods. Before we start, I just realized I am using the wrong cutting board. I actually really like to use cutting boards that have a nice groove around the edge so it catches any of that extra watermelon juice before it hits your kitchen floor. So I'm just gonna swap this out real quick. There we go. You'll first start off by cutting off both ends of the watermelon. Place the watermelon with one of the ends cut side down on the board. Insert your knife where the white part of the rind meets the pink flesh. Cut at an angle away from the center of the fruit to remove the rind. Follow the curvature of the melon until you reach the opposite end. Repeat this process all of the way around the watermelon until only a ball of watermelon flesh is left. Remove any remaining white parts from the fruit by cutting it off with your knife. Cut the watermelon ball in half lengthwise. Put one of the halves cut side down on the cutting board and make vertical cuts approximately 1 inch apart. Turn the watermelon pieces and make perpendicular cuts 1 inch apart to make sticks. Place all of the sticks together and cut the melon into 1 inch cubes. Repeat this process with the other half. That was so easy, right? But what if you want to make those cute little snackable wedges instead? For this second method, you'll want to make sure that you start with a really sharp knife. Cut and remove both ends of the watermelon. Place the watermelon with one of the ends cut side down on the board and cut it in half lengthwise. Place the watermelon half cut side down on the board and cut it again in half lengthwise to get 4 quarters. With one of the quarters flat side down, make cuts approximately half to 1 inch apart for watermelon wedges. You can also cut from the flesh to the rind if this is easier for you. Store fresh watermelon sticks, cubes, or wedges in an airtight container in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. If storing a watermelon half or quarter, wrap it in plastic wrap before placing it in the refrigerator. For freezing, place cut fruit in a single layer on a baking sheet. Cover with plastic wrap or wax paper and freeze for at least 4 or up to 24 hours. Once the watermelon pieces are firm, place in a freezer-safe Ziploc bag and store in the freezer for up to a year. Or you can use up a bunch of this freshly cut watermelon in this easy recipe here. If you liked what you saw here today, make sure you check out these other quick kitchen tips. Thanks so much for hanging out, y'all. I'll see you again soon.